I'm Alexander Sari, co-lead of the Climate Adaptation Mission at BehaviourWorks Australia as part of the Monash Sustainable Development Institute at Monash University. In this video, I'll brief you on the Climate Adaptation Mission and invite you to identify adaptation challenges we can address through the mission by completing a 10 or 15 minute online survey. Here's the short version. The BehaviourWorks Australia Climate Adaptation Mission has a goal, and its goal is to increase the adaptive capacity of communities most at risk of climate change impacts by 2030. We need help identifying which adaptation challenges to prioritise, and then we need to design, test and scale up behaviour change interventions for these challenges. You can help us identify adaptation challenges by completing a survey before the end of November, and the survey website is there, or there should be a link attached to this video. By completing the survey, you can also express your interest to be involved in other activities, such as using criteria to prioritize the challenges that have been brought up through the survey and through a desktop review of existing plans and strategies for climate adaptation. That's in November. You could also be involved as part of a team in co-designing the interventions to address these challenges. You could test the interventions within your organization or through your networks. And you could be involved in scale-up and implementation and dissemination of successful interventions. Now, if that's all you need, then you can stop the video here and go ahead and complete the survey. But if you'd like to know more about the Climate Adaptation Mission and the specific reason and information about the survey, then you can keep watching. So the Climate Adaptation Mission is being coordinated by BehaviourWorks Australia. We're a research enterprise at Monash University within the Monash Sustainable Development Institute. At the Institute, we advance the well-being of people and planet for current and future generations. At BehaviourWorks, we do applied behaviour change research. Commonly, this means exploring, deep diving, and applying in a structured problem-solving approach using various methods from behaviour science, systems thinking, and complexity science. We're governed by a consortium that includes the Victorian Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, Sustainability Victoria, the Shannon Company, and the Australian Government Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment. These four consortium members are also supporting and participating in the Climate Adaptation Mission. Now, when I say mission or missions-based approach, what I mean is a model for addressing problems by building a coalition for research and innovation. You could think of this as being big science deployed to meet big problems. Mariana Mazzucato has a great and very accessible report that describes the key components of missions, and a more recent report specifically about delivering or making missions work from the International Science Council emphasizes the role of behavior change. When it comes to the Climate Adaptation Mission, we can think conceptually about the mission as having kind of four major components. There's a grand challenge, a mission goal, specific sectors and areas of interest that come together, and research and innovation projects, which are the kind of activities of the mission. A mission starts with a grand challenge. Here at BehaviourWorks, as part of the Monash Sustainable Development Institute, we're guided by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And climate action, which is goal number 13, is one of two grand challenges chosen to be turned into missions by our board for the period 2020 to 2023. The other grand challenge is responsible consumption. Now, this grand challenge requires a clear goal that's targeted, measurable, and time-bound. And the work that we've done in scoping the mission has led to this specific goal. Now, both the challenge and the goal are relatively top-down. That is to say, they've been determined by funders and governance structures for the mission. They also imply certain sectors or areas that are likely to be relevant to addressing the mission goal. But the groups that work together to identify, design, and test research, that's where the bottom-up side of the mission comes in. So there might be these particular areas and sectors from the beginning, but as we start to identify the challenges we want to work on and then design and test solutions, it's likely that these will change and be added to over time. And then the specific research and innovation projects need to use multiple possible solutions because some will fail or need to be adjusted. And these projects will bring together cross-disciplinary sector and system actor collaborations in order to identify the challenges and behavioral research and innovation projects, as well as actually design those projects and carry them out. So here's where the mission is right now. Earlier in 2021, we conducted an evidence and practice review of behavior change and climate change to identify how a climate action mission could work within the scope of behavior change. We learned that there's relatively little adaptation to slow-moving, cumulative climate stresses compared to disasters such as floods and bushfires, and that individual acts or policies, like installing air conditioning, encouraging planned migration, or redirecting government subsidy, could build or could erode collective adaptive capacity. And so right now, what we need to do is, given this scope and the goal, we need to identify and prioritize adaptation challenges that fit within that. At the end of this year and through 2022, we'll be recruiting teams to address the challenges, work with them to design and test interventions, and then support the implementation and scale up of successful interventions. If we zoom in on the prioritization phase, we have this specific goal for this phase. We want to agree on 4 to 6 adaptation challenges that we can take forward to an intervention co-design phase. We've worked to identify who needs to be engaged. We've run 2 webinars, and we're also reaching out to specific experts and people with experience in climate adaptation. The long listing survey and an accompanying desktop review of existing plans and strategies will together create what we call a long list of challenges. Then we'll look to resolve on the prioritization criteria or the rules of the game for choosing which challenges to progress with. And then we'll conduct a prioritization summit in November where we apply those criteria to select a short list of challenges. Now let's talk about the specifics of the survey. The main question you'll be asked in the survey is who is experiencing what challenge as a consequence of climate change. And we'll ask you to provide your responses in the format of group has challenge as a result of climate change, and optionally because of reason. So this doesn't have to be the most important challenge. You'll actually be asked to supply at least 2 and up to 10 different challenges. You don't necessarily need to belong to the group that you're describing has the challenge. You can provide information about the reason you believe the challenge is happening, but that's not necessary to suggest a challenge. And although it's the research and innovation projects that will come from these challenges will be behavioral in nature, you don't yet need to know exactly how behavior change will happen. The co-design process will embed and enrich with behavior change. Now here are some areas that are in focus and less in focus for the challenges that are in this mission, as established through scoping and early work with the partners. You'll still have the opportunity to suggest challenges that are not in these focus areas, but we ask that you suggest at least 2 challenges relevant to the focus areas as well. The focus groups are low-income households and communities dependent on natural resources, and the focus challenges are recurring, persistent, and long-term climate stresses. This is things like drought, ocean acidification, sea level rise, things that add up over time. We're also interested in problems such as environmental impacts from long-term stresses like biodiversity change and loss or food insecurity, and health impacts from long-term stresses like respiratory illness and mental health. Areas that are less in focus are more acute or sudden or disaster type events related to climate change, like storms, bushfires, and floods. And we're also less interested for this mission in the direct economic impacts, such as loss of jobs or loss of wealth. It's now time to complete the survey. If you like, you can type this website out, or there should be a link that's accompanying this video. Once you've completed the survey, at the end, you'll be offered the chance to give your personal details and express interest in being involved in future activities. The survey is open until the end of October, and then in mid-November, we have a prioritization summit, and through 2022 is when we'll be designing and testing the interventions. Thanks very much. And if you have any questions, please email me at alexandersari@monash.edu. Thanks.